It was supposed to be the happiest night of her life. June 8, 2023, in the warm, amber glow of a Charleston summer evening, Emily Prescott walked down the aisle of the Fairmont estate, an opulent riverside mansion steeped in Southern charm and wedding lore, to marry the man she'd loved for nearly 4 years, Dylan Carter. Friends and family described the ceremony as storybook, dreamlike, even eerily perfect. But before dawn broke the next morning, Dylan would be dead, stabbed 23 times in the chest and neck, discovered lifeless beneath blood-soaked hotel linens in the bridal suite. Within 72 hours, the unthinkable unfolded. Emily's own sister, Madison Prescott, was taken into custody as the prime suspect in what authorities would soon call one of the most chilling and bizarre homicides in Charleston County's recent memory. The story didn't just shock the wedding guests, or the families, or even the investigators. It unraveled a web of secret obsessions, emotional unraveling, and twisted motives that not only destroyed a marriage before it could even begin, but shattered a family from within. This isn't a tale of strangers or unknown assailants, it's a case rooted in proximity, in trust, in the terrifying idea that danger sometimes doesn't break in through the window, it's already sitting at your table, wearing your colors, smiling in the wedding photos. According to the official guest list, the Prescott-Carter wedding hosted 112 guests. The bride and groom, both Charleston locals, were well known in their respective circles. Emily, 27, was a middle school English teacher described by colleagues as thoughtful and nurturing, while Dylan, 29, had quickly risen in the financial services world thanks to a mix of charisma, ambition, and a disarming sense of humor. Their courtship had been slow, steady, and by all appearances, stable. But behind the scenes, there was an undercurrent that few picked up on until it was far too late. Interviews with guests later revealed small, almost imperceptible moments of tension on the wedding day. Bridesmaid Jenna Lawrence told police that Madison Prescott, Emily's older sister, seemed checked out during the reception, almost angry, though when asked, she brushed it off as a headache. Groomsman Andre Palmer recounted a brief but heated exchange between Madison and Dylan near the bar around 9:45 p.m., though he admitted he didn't hear the words. The body language, he said, was off. The bride, Emily, unaware of any conflict at the time, would later uncover journal entries dated as far back as May in which she expressed a creeping unease about her sister's increasingly inappropriate attachment to Dylan. One entry read, "Madison makes these jokes, says things like, if you ever dump him, he's mine, but they don't feel like jokes anymore." Investigators believe this dynamic had been building quietly for over a year. Madison, 31, was a freelance graphic designer with a history of volatility, including a DUI in 2017 and a public disturbance charge in 2019. Though she'd largely kept a low profile in recent years, former roommates and acquaintances described her as intense, emotionally erratic, and deeply attached to people who didn't always feel the same. These warnings, of course, only surfaced in hindsight. On the wedding night itself, the newlyweds were last seen leaving the venue at 11:50 p.m., smiling, hand in hand, toward a vintage Rolls-Royce waiting to take them to the Windermere Hotel, a luxurious, boutique stay where they booked room 414, the corner bridal suite with a waterfront view. Surveillance footage would later confirm Madison leaving shortly after midnight, stating she was heading back to her hotel room at the Marion Inn 2 blocks away. She was wearing a soft blue bridesmaid's gown, carrying her shoes in one hand and a small silver clutch in the other. At that moment, no one suspected anything was amiss. But within hours, the first layers of deception would begin to peel away. From the outside, the night seemed to close with a bow, guests drunk on champagne and sentimentality. But for one person, that night wasn't a celebration. It was a reckoning. And something dark was already in motion. At 7:12 a.m. on June 9th, a distressed call came through to the front desk of the Windermere Hotel. Emily Carter, barely coherent, was screaming for help. Paramedics arrived minutes later to find the bridal suite in a state of chaos. Dylan Carter lay motionless in the center of the bed, partially covered by the once pristine white duvet, now soaked through with blood. His body bore 23 stab wounds, clustered brutally around the chest, neck, and upper abdomen. Investigators at the scene noted the serrated kitchen knife on the floor beside the bed, wiped partially clean, devoid of fingerprints, and a faint trail of blood near the bathroom, though no bloody footprints were found. There were no signs of forced entry. The room had been locked from the inside, and the key card system registered only 2 entries, Dylan and Emily's just after midnight. Hotel staff reported no disturbances overnight. Emily, interviewed at the scene, was described as inconsolable and confused, claiming she had taken a melatonin gummy around 12:15 a.m. to help her sleep and had no memory of anything after lying down beside her husband. She told detectives she awoke to find his body cold, with the sheets sticking to her skin. Her appearance, according to the initial report, was shockingly clean, no visible blood on her clothing or body, save for faint traces under her fingernails, later proven through forensic testing to be consistent with Dylan's DNA, matching her claim that she had touched him while trying to wake him. Despite her clean physical state, investigators had no immediate suspects and placed Emily under unofficial observation as a person of interest pending further evidence. Within 36 hours, however, the case took a sharp turn. Charleston PD's forensic team discovered that the murder weapon, a high-end serrated kitchen knife, did not match the cutlery inventory of the hotel suite. It was traced to a specialty knife set sold only through a boutique brand, Briar & Thorn, and registered under a customer profile linked to a shipping address in Atlanta, Georgia. The recipient, Madison Prescott. This finding cracked open the investigation. Detectives pulled additional hotel security footage, and upon closer review, located footage that had initially been overlooked. At precisely 2:12 a.m., a figure matching Madison's build and attire, dark hoodie, black leggings, low ponytail, entered the building through the service entrance on the north side. Her bridesmaid's dress was no longer visible. She was seen carrying a large tote bag. No one recalled her returning to her room at the Marion Inn that night, and when police questioned hotel staff, a valet remembered her car, a silver Mazda CX-5, being parked in a side lot well after midnight, despite Madison previously claiming she had left the reception on foot. The tote bag she had been carrying was later found in a dumpster 2 blocks from the hotel, after a sanitation worker flagged it for containing what appeared to be a bloody towel and a single silver earring. Forensic analysis matched the blood to Dylan, and Madison's DNA was found on both the towel and the knife handle. Cell tower data further placed her phone in the vicinity of the Windermere Hotel between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m., contradicting her original alibi that she had been asleep at her hotel room. As the puzzle pieces locked into place, investigators began to outline a chilling narrative. Sometime after the wedding ended, Madison had changed out of her formal wear, retrieved the knife from her car, and quietly entered the Windermere Hotel using the service entrance, which was routinely left unlocked for deliveries. How she gained entry into room 414 remains uncertain. There was no forced entry, no additional keycard, but investigators theorized that she may have known the door code or that Dylan, awake at the time, let her in. No concrete evidence confirms either scenario. What is known is that by the early morning hours, Dylan Carter was dead, and Madison had vanished into the night, the bloodied remnants of her visit discarded and hidden. The discovery of her involvement turned a senseless tragedy into a narrative of betrayal so deep, so intimate, that even seasoned detectives described the case as uniquely disturbing. This wasn't a random act of violence, it was something far more chilling. It was personal. On the morning of June 11, 2023, just over 48 hours after Dylan Carter's murder, Madison Prescott was arrested outside her apartment complex in Atlanta, Georgia, without incident. According to arresting officers, she appeared composed, almost eerily so, and her first words were, "Does Emily know yet?" a statement investigators later cited as indicative of consciousness of guilt. During her subsequent interrogation, portions of which were later released during pretrial proceedings, Madison shifted between flat denials and vague, disjointed implications that Dylan had misled her and made promises he never intended to keep. When pressed for specifics, she often fell silent or changed the subject, occasionally asking about her sister's mental state or whether Emily had said anything about her yet. It was during the search of Madison's apartment that the full scope of her obsession came to light. Detectives found a box hidden in her closet containing printed photographs of Dylan, screen captures of his social media posts, handwritten notes addressed to him in a mix of admiration and resentment, and, most disturbingly, copies of text conversations that she had apparently transcribed by hand, with her own annotations in the margins, statements like, "He hesitated here," or, "He wanted to say more." Digital forensics uncovered over 230 messages Madison had sent Dylan over the previous year, many of which went unanswered. While most were benign, comments on his Instagram stories, emojis, casual greetings, the tone began to escalate in early 2023, coinciding with Emily and Dylan's formal engagement. By February, Madison had begun leaving voicemails late at night, some of which were recovered from Dylan's cloud backups. In one particularly unsettling recording dated February 17, she says, "You don't have to marry her. I know you feel it too. I can keep our secret." Prosecutors argued that while Dylan never encouraged or reciprocated Madison's advances, he also never told Emily about the growing number of messages, likely out of discomfort or fear of family conflict. Emily, when interviewed by the district attorney's office, broke down upon hearing the voicemails and admitted she had been unaware of the extent of her sister's fixation, though she had confided in friends about feeling increasingly uncomfortable with Madison's presence around Dylan. The trial began on November 4, 2023, at the Charleston County Courthouse. The prosecution painted a picture of calculated obsession, stating that Madison, already emotionally unstable and suffering from a diagnosed borderline personality disorder, had constructed an elaborate internal narrative in which she and Dylan shared a secret relationship. They emphasized that the murder was not spontaneous, it was premeditated, and its execution was as intimate as it was violent. The defense attempted a diminished capacity plea, calling on psychiatric experts to argue that Madison had experienced a dissociative break triggered by emotional trauma and rejection. They cited her mental health history, including 2 voluntary psychiatric stays in 2021, and testimony from a former therapist who described her as prone to emotional spirals centered on perceived abandonment. But the forensic evidence, the knife, the bag, the timeline, the voicemail, proved insurmountable. After a 14-hour jury deliberation, Madison Prescott was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Emily, in her victim impact statement, addressed her sister without directly naming her, "I lost my husband and my sister on the same night. One to death, the other to madness. I don't know which hurts more." The Prescott family issued a brief joint statement expressing their sorrow and disavowing Madison's actions, requesting privacy as they grapple with the irreversible rupture of their family. In the aftermath, Emily withdrew from public life and entered intensive trauma therapy. She legally changed her last name, left her teaching position, and relocated out of state by early 2024. The case of Madison Prescott left a permanent scar on Charleston's otherwise picturesque social memory, not just because of its brutality, but because it defied expectation at every turn. There were no shadowy strangers, no masked assailants, only a sister with a twisted vision of love, a groom unaware of the danger at his periphery, and a bride who woke up to a horror she never could have imagined.